This one is for the misfits, for the people who are too much, for the people who've always been rebels, rule breakers, who were too ahead of their time to be understood. I've been processing something lately, and I normally would take it to my personal account, Geoprism Unfiltered. Yes, that's a real account. Yes, that's really me. But I thought I would share it here because not only is it such a universally understood experience now that we're in adulthood, but it's a wound that those of us who are on the path of awakening, whether we've been there for many years or we're just stepping into it, it's a wound that needs to be unpacked so that those of us who are on it and who are destined to be change makers, leaders, way showers, we can unpack that feeling of being too much, out of step, a problem, and so we can step into the power and make the waves we were always destined to make. There is a special kind of pain in being awake in a world that is determined to stay asleep. And for as long as I can remember, I have had this pain. I have been able to see things, understand things, make connections, feel what's happening below the surface when none of the adults in my world could. And so I've carried this sense of strangeness of other into my adulthood until I could figure out I wasn't weird, I wasn't wrong, I was intuitive, and I knew. Those of us who walk this path are more likely to be called troublemakers and punished for what we know and what we see, rather than validated and vindicated, and worst of all, rather than believed. I've been unpacking these wounds for years, literal decades, but this weekend was very interesting. This same night, this weekend, was my 25th high school reunion and the night of a concert of my favorite punk band, both from my high school years and beyond. And it was very much a worlds colliding, while at the same time, the perfect microcosm of my experience growing up in adolescence. Now, high school reunions are always rife for unpacking the wounds of adolescence, and this, of course, is no exception, especially as I'm at a place in my life where I am crushing it. I'm crushing it. I am fully in my power as a psychic medium, as a healer, and as a leader. I lead a spiritual activist movement of 130,000 people. I am crushing it. But as I've been trolling the high school class Facebook group and seeing everyone catch up and talk about what they're doing, I remember how different I am. While everyone's comparing notes about their jobs and their lives as stay-at-home moms, which nothing wrong with any of it. But it is hard to be among peers when you stand out for doing things that are very different, and very few people understand, let alone appreciate, who you are and what you do. And so on the one hand, it dredges up old wounds, but on the other, what is dredging up old wounds if not an opportunity to heal? My high school experience was pretty unique in that I feel like I had all the experiences. I often tell people when we talk about high school and what were you like in high school, I say, well, this tells you. My sophomore year, I went to every single school dance, and my senior year, I went to none. And I graduated early, I was out of there. I did the popular girl thing, and I was on sports teams and literary magazine and debate. I did the AP classes, but I also became quickly disillusioned. And I woke up to a lot of things in high school, both socially with peers and what was happening in the world. And as the years went on and I became more vocal and insistent about the things that I saw and was passionate about, I became more isolated and alienated as my friends decided I was not acceptable to be around. They didn't know what to do with me. And can you blame them? They were 16. What are you going to do? But our differences became very stark. And my high school years, while many of my peers were memorizing the Backstreet Boys dances, I was in mosh pits screaming about political awakening and racial injustice. And being religious in a religious state here in Utah added an extra layer of mindfuck. Because while my peers were bearing their testimonies at church camp, I was getting kicked out of Sunday school for arguing with teachers and calling them out on their misogyny. This is why I've said for years that punk rock saved my life, because I was gaslit. I was called a problem. I was punished. But I knew I wasn't the only one who could see it, because they could see it. They were talking about it. They knew it was real, this thing that I was feeling and tapped into and so painfully deeply aware of. My poor empathetic soul feeling the pain of the world, seeing the injustice, screaming about it and falling on deaf ears. I wasn't the only one who was feeling it. There were others who knew it too. And that was my salvation, my link to sanity. So this weekend, that is why, no, I didn't go to my high school reunion. I went to the punk rock show. And that brought out all the goodness of this path I've chosen, this community that held me when none of my other communities would. And it was so deeply healing. But at the same time, it feels like I don't know if these wounds will ever fully go away, whether they're wounds from the past or they're ones that just keep, I'm in the same pattern. I'm doing the same thing. I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I'm tapped into the deeper truth. I'm sharing my deeper truths. And so many people in the world are still stubbornly refusing to wake up. But of course, the difference now is that I'm not screaming into the void. I have a community. I'm surrounded by others who see it too. And you are with me, linked arm in arm, going forward to be the change. So whenever I get a really beautiful full circle moment like this, I always like to remember, to remind my inner teen, my inner child, my inner whoever, that being different was of course not a curse. It was hard, it was isolating. It left scars of loneliness that I still struggle with today. But it is not the whole truth. No. The whole truth is that I was born awake. I was born to be a gift, a leader, someone who was brave enough to scream about the truth even when no one would listen. Because eventually, with enough of us misfits and outliers doing the work in our own lonely corners of the world, eventually our waves rippled and people noticed and people began to wake up. And then we found each other and we joined forces and we are moving forward together. So to anyone out there who has those same scars of being too much, of being not accepted because of who you are and what you see, I see you. The world just wasn't ready for you yet. Maybe they're still not ready for you now, but there's a community of us. And it is because of us walking that path for years, for decades, that the world is changing. We were not too much. The world wasn't ready. But they're getting there. And it's because of us. We did it. We brought the world here and we're going to help them walk every step of the way. You're not screaming into the void anymore. We are speaking truth together. And I am so glad we found each other.